Welcome to Good Burgers. My name is John, and I'm here to review a brand new 2026 movie, and it's called Honey Bunch.
We're going to work together to get you better, okay? Look at me now. You're going to get better.
What if I have permanent brain damage?
Then I'll take care of you.
Even if I'm a vegetable?
Especially if you're a vegetable. I love you.
Whoa! This movie was released to Shudder in February of 2026. It is directed by Dusty Mancinelli. It stars Grace Glowicki, Ben Petrie, and Jason Isaacs. When Diana wakes from a coma with memory loss, she and her husband seek experimental treatments at a remote facility. As the procedures intensify, their marriage is put to the test, and Diana begins to question her husband's true motives. So, as the third movie I watched as part of this trilogy of movies released by Shudder over the weekend, 2 to streaming and 1 into the theater, I think I may have saved the best for last. And that is a movie called Honey Bunch. And oddly enough, it was the one with the weirdest title and the one that I thought I was going to like the least, and I turned out liking it the best. So let's get into the good, the bad, and the ugly on Honey Bunch. So this movie is definitely a blend of multiple movies, and when I think of what movies it blends with, I primarily think of The Disquiet, A Nightmare on Elm Street, Part 3, Dream Warriors, with Multiplicity, and The Substance, and The Haunting. Yes, and if that is an odd blend, I'll say it again. What an odd blend. So in the positives, I will put, again, this movie has a fairly decent setting. It takes place in like this rehabilitation center, which is kind of connected to a hospital. It's got all the traditional haunts, spooks, bumps in the nights, creepy images, scary dreams, dream sequences. So in the positives, I will put our main star, Glowicki, who plays Diana. She apparently was recently in a car accident and goes to this rehabilitation center to work on improving her body. But as soon as she gets there, she starts to realize that something is amiss. And a lot of the movie falls on her shoulders, especially since she plays more than one role.
Something weird happened to me. It felt completely real at the time. Maybe it was a memory, but it didn't feel like one.
And then you have her husband, Homer, who seems to really love her and wants to help her get better, but there's something not right about Homer, and it's hard to put your finger on it in the beginning. But as the movie starts to unravel, you realize Homer has done some things that maybe he should have thought twice about before doing.
Everything is gonna go back to normal. It might just take a little more time.
Get back!
Okay, I am. Nobody's gonna hurt you.
What did you do?
Things will be okay. Trust me.
So I said this movie reminded me of The Disquiet, and that was a movie released a couple years back about a guy that was in a coma in a hospital, and it seemed like that whole movie was like an analogy for purgatory, or that like being in a coma is like being in purgatory. And this movie has very similar themes.
Hey. Okay, Sam. Hello! Anybody!
So how does A Nightmare on Elm Street 3 fit into this? And why did I say Elm Street 3 and not just Elm Street 1? Well, our main girl, Diana, or final girl, or final girls, she looks just like Kristen Parker, Patricia Arquette. She's dressed like her, she acts like her, and she's having so many visions and dreams that it literally felt like I was dealing with Kristen Parker instead of Diana for a good portion of this movie.
Hi, what's your name?
Kirsten?
What's yours? What is this place?
And that'll bring me to the mixed. So this movie is another one where it seemed to be issue with the time and setting that it's in. Because at one point he says that was Christmas 74, which means we're post 74. It still feels like we're definitely in the 70s still. So we're somewhere probably 77, 78. And I wasn't getting the late 70s vibe. I wasn't, other than the cars, the way they dressed, the way they acted, everyone acted like they were from another era. Like I felt like the way the characters acted, it was like the 1940s or early 1950s. The way the cars looked, it was like the 1970s, and the way the house looked and the way everything inside looked, you felt like you were in the 1960s. And I felt like this movie couldn't make up its mind what decade it was in. But at least we knew we were in the 1900s, because there wasn't an iota of a cell phone or a computer. Another thing I'll put in the mix is this is another movie that starts to portray itself as a haunted house or the haunting, and I felt like it was a haunting until we realized that it was something else. It wasn't really a haunting. There's not really a supernatural element. This is more like, I don't even know if I'd call it mad scientist, maybe like a mad crazy doctor or just a crazy program of what, it turns out, what is this rehabilitation center anyway? It seems to be not on the up and up. And the only way I can explain it is by getting into the spoiler section. So I will continue on this point in spoilers. So in the negatives, I guess there was a little bit of a pacing issue. This movie does take a minute to get off its feet and get rolling. The only thing else that I'll put in a negative is it seems like it just gets a little complicated and they have to do an exposition dump at the end to kind of pull it all together. But I will tell you this, it makes more sense than Bird Eater and Mortuary's Assistant. So there's that. So let's just get into spoilers so we can break this down so that we can understand what this movie's really about. And I can explain the substance and multiplicity aspect of this blend. So Diana and Homer, they start off this like scene on a beach where he's carrying her in the water, and you get this sense of that she's dead or gonna die, or maybe he was gonna drown her. I don't know, it's kind of strange. But then we flash forward to them going in a car, and then they're going to this rehabilitation center where she's going to, you're not even sure what's wrong with her at first, except for that she's got a cane, she's limping, and obviously something's happened to her. And then when they get there, they meet Farah, and I guess she's like the one facilitating everything in the rehabilitation center. And right off the gate, she's also quirky. And there's pictures in the house. I mean, for a rehabilitation center, it definitely seems more like a haunted house, because there's spooky photos on the wall. It's really big and laid out, and there's not much there. It turns out, it seemed like when they first got there, they were the only ones there, until another couple shows up, which at first I thought they were a married couple, but then it turns out to be a dad and a daughter. And daughter seems to be having an injury too, and has to have rehabilitation. And Farah, sometimes she acts on the nose, especially when she instructs Diana to take her medicine. She's very eminent about her taking her medicine. Now, after what seems to be maybe a day there, things start to get strange. She feels like she's having visions. And I guess there's this whole aspect of maybe that she had dementia, because it seems like she had forgotten a lot of things. She couldn't remember much before arriving. And they didn't really explain much of that right away. And you think, does she have dementia? And she starts having memories from the past. But at the same time, she seems to be seeing strange women roaming around the premises, staring at her through windows or being outside running through the woods, and it's very odd. And whenever she goes to follow up on any of these strange occurrences, it just seems like they disappear.
You can't pull it up all by yourself.
Well, after a couple days of it getting too weird for her to understand why, she decides one night not to take her medication, which I guess the medication was helping her sleep. So since she couldn't sleep, she decided to go into the woods where she saw one of the mysterious women running. And she finds another building When she gets inside this other building, she comes to find out there's other people in this building, and at first you think this is a dream because some of the other people in this building are her. And that's where I started getting the whole multiplicity thing. If you remember, Michael Keaton started a movie, Multiplicity, where he creates multiple versions of himself to do his work while he can enjoy life. Well, this is like the horror version of that because there's multiple versions of her. One of them is in the bed and very messed up. Looks like she was run over by a steamroller. And that's where I was getting the Substance vibe, because the one version of her literally looked like something right out of the Substance. And then you have another version of her which has like a neck brace on, and then another version of her with cut short hair that seems to be physically fine but mentally gone. And you think, what are all these versions of her doing in this building? And then as she goes into other rooms, she sees another version of the other girl that was back at the rehabilitation center, but she's like in a hospital bed all covered up. And then I guess the Ferris husband, there was like versions of him in there as well, multiple versions. And then there's rooms where they're dancing funny, and it was very quirky.
Don't ever blow smoke in my face again. What are you gonna do about it? What am I gonna do about it? I'll hit you so hard, I'll kill him. Guys, come on, guys. Maybe we gotta sit down and have, a rap session or something, because you're both feeling a lot of anger here, and I'm just afraid, you're like two lions or something. Shut up. Shut up.
Sorry. Reasons why initially I was getting that Nightmare on Elm Street vibe, because I thought it was a dream. But it turns out it wasn't a dream. All these other versions of these people are there. Why? Because it turns out this rehabilitation center isn't really a rehabilitation center. It's a rejuvenation center. And what she comes to find out is she died. And all these versions of her have been failed rejuvenated attempts to get her back to normal. And she's the most normal one. And that's why she's in the other building trying to get back to full steam with her memory. So she confronts her husband about this because she's quite upset that her husband has done this to her and blames him.
Everything is gonna go back to normal. It might just take a little more time.
Get back!
Okay, I am. Nobody's gonna hurt you.
What did you do?
And he was just being selfish because he didn't want to lose his wife, so he was doing anything in his power to bring her back. Meanwhile, the other couple there, the father and the daughter, father gets told that this rehabilitation or rejuvenation isn't going to work because there isn't enough whatever in the science to make it work, so he's just going to get a refund and have to go. But he's not going to accept that. So he shows up at this building where everyone's at and tries to set it on fire. And that's where everything goes into chaos. All the clones and multiple people are trying to escape. She realizes in this chaos that her husband loves her because he's trying to save all the versions of her, because he made sure to tell the doctor to make sure that the failed attempts still got taken care of in a good way. So this changes Diana's attitude about her husband, and she starts to forgive him. And they do manage to escape the fire and go back to the same lake. And it seems like he may have gotten injured because now in the final scene, she's carrying him into the water, signifying she's about to do the same thing to him that was done to her. So I'm going to get down to business on this one because I feel like this one's a real good watch, and I do recommend that if you have Shudder to go ahead and watch it. Like overall, some of the time the movie did have a basic feel, but I felt like the story and the acting and where this went, the originality mixed with the familiarity of a good horror thrill story, and I guess this was more of a psychological thriller with a scientific wacky ending, I guess you could put. I'm going to blend all my emotions together on this and give it a good burger. Well, that's it. We've gotten through all these Shudder movies. Please like, subscribe, tap that notification bell, all that jazz. And don't forget to stay scared of those rejuvenation centers, acting as rehabilitation centers, setting you up to deal with multiple clones that may fail.